Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, welcome all to the Policy and Resources Committee. Go straight into the agenda. 1, apologies or substitutes.
Convener, apologies from Councillor Macmillan Douglas, Councillor King, Councillor Stewart, substituted respectively by Councillor McLaren, Rees and Brown today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. 2, declarations of interest. Councillor Speed.
Yep, thanks, Convener. Declaration of interest in agenda item 8. I'm a trustee of Hope Gardens. And also agenda item number 15. I'm a member of the Integration Joint Board, and I also have family members who are in receipt of self-directed support.
Thank you, Councillor Speed. Councillor Devine.
Thanks, Convener. Yes, item 8, report 32521. I am a council appointed member of the Shared Apprentice Limited, and as such I've got a general exclusion. I'll take part and vote if necessary.
Thank you. Councillor Salmond.
Yes, thank you, Convener. Item number 8, report 32521. It's a non-financial interest. It's project GSG.20, which is the Lunan Bay project. I met members of the Lunan Bay Community Partnership socially, and I also met them at a separate meeting with council officers to discuss Lunan Bay. I'll take part in the discussion and voting if required.
Thank you, Councillor Salmond. Okay, I don't see. Oh, Councillor Miles.
Yes, as a member of the Angus Health Social Care Partnership, number 15, but I have exclusions for that, so I will take part. Okay.
Thank you. Mrs. Buchanan, you want to come in?
Through yourself, please, just to ask Councillor Speed to kindly clarify, should she be staying for the items that she's declared an interest in, or if she would be removing herself? Thank you.
Councillor Speed.
Yes, sorry, yeah, there was a pause on my mute. Yeah, I'll be staying for those items.
Super.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to 3 is the minutes. Right, the previous meeting, submit for approval as correct record the meeting of the committee 30/20/21. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
And B, submit for approval as record the minute of the special meeting of this committee of the 29th of September 2021. Is that agreed? I'll take silence as agreed. Thank you. We'll go to 4, which is an information report, page 10 to 13. It's the Community Asset Transfer 2021 annual report. Quickly say, I think a lot of good work has been done there, and I think a lot of the transfers that we have put across will have been welcomed by the community. So I'll just go straight into, are there any questions? No questions, any comments? Don't see any comments. Okay, the report's agreed. And again, I'll take, right, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Devine. Okay, we'll go to agenda item 5, capital monitoring, the general fund capital programme. Right, Ian Lorimer, and I also believe we've got to thank Don Johnson for the report. It's page 14 to 3. You've got the recommendation. Questions? Don't see any questions, any comments? Okay, no comments, I believe. The recommendation is simply 1, reviews and scrutinises. Vote agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. Go to number 6, page 31 to 52 is the revenue monitoring 2021-22 and the renewal and repair fund position 2021-22. Thanks to Jill Rennie. You've got the recommendations. Are there any questions? Okay, no questions, any comments? comments? Okay, recommendations are 1, review and scrutinise, and 2, note. Is the report agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. We'll go to item 7, creation of the 2022-23 General Fund, Revenue and Capital Budget 66. Ian Lorimer, and again, can I just say thanks to Gillian Woodcock. You've got the recommendations. Okay, I don't see any questions. Any comments? No comments. The recommendations are 1, approve, 2, approve, note. Is the report agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. Item 8 is the COVID-19 funding discretionary approvals. And Ian Lorimer, and thanks to Victoria Gibbons. You've got the recommendations. I'm sure there's bound to be for this one. Any questions first? Councillor Hans.
Yeah, it relates to item on in terms of the 3 welfare officers for 2 years being embedded into schools, which I totally welcome that. I just wonder, it mentions initially they're going to be in 5 schools. Have the 5 schools been identified? If so, how were they identified? And also, how soon will it roll out to the other schools? And how accessible will it be for anyone affected by poverty in schools? Because obviously the schools have a specific catchment for postcodes, but poverty doesn't know what postcodes are. So every family affected by poverty really needs this support. So whilst I welcome it, I would like to see it rolled out as widely as possible, as quickly as possible.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Hans. Can somebody help me with that? This one? Would that be Mr. Lorimer?
Yeah, thanks, convener, and good afternoon, councillors. Victoria Gibbons is also on the call, so she may be able to add some additional detail. I think Councillor Hans was asking about which schools will it be. I'm not in a position to answer that, but I think it will be those with the highest levels of deprivation. I'm happy to come back on that after the meeting. But it's basically those schools where we think the highest need is likely to exist. I think there was also a question about how it will be rolled out. I think we want to see how the first, I think it's 4 months, the early part of the programme goes in terms of building those relationships with schools and with school communities effectively, and then we would look to roll it out. The potential for rolling it out quite quickly is there, depending on the levels of demand and the levels of take-up. But certainly it's our intention. We know this from pilot work that we did previously, effectively one-off events, that level of intervention directly in the school can really help people very directly and very quickly. So we do expect to support. I think it was 300 families in the first year, sorry, 200 to 300 families in the first year and 400 families in the second year. Our intention is to build this across all of the schools, if we can, but it will depend how the early phases go. I think there was also a question about how accessible the support will be, taking into account the postcodes. Again, the intention would be that the service and the support would be available to those most in need based on where they are in each of those. As I say, Victoria is on the call. She's been involved as part of the grant assessment panel, so might know a bit more than I've been able to add there. To invite Victoria if she's got anything further to say in relation to that question to come in, assuming she's on the call. I think she should be.
Hi, Victoria.
Hi, thank you. Yes, I agree with everything Ian has just explained. It is a test of change project, and the applicant has explained that they will be fluid in their approach. So if there's areas of need identified, then they'll move towards those areas of need, and it will be reviewed quarterly.
I'll possibly follow up just 2 questions. I just wonder why the 7 secondary schools weren't prioritised, and then the feeder cluster schools would be able to access into that. And I also wonder as well, across Angus, there's a different level of access to CAB and welfare rights as well. So will thought been given to where there's crossover areas already and areas that don't have anything at all? Well, because I come back to my point, any family, regardless of their postcode, in poverty is a family seriously in need. So it's how we maximise getting the support and help to individual families the most, rather than necessarily always focusing on location.
Well, Hans, Victoria, can you help with that?
This is a partnership project between education, school and family support, and welfare rights. The data that they currently hold has informed their decisions as to where they will look to commence the project and where they'll focus the support for the 5 pilot schools. They'll be taking feedback from head teachers and also other welfare rights officers in the area. There's also data that we can pull from previous school holiday support that's been offered, touching base with families out with formal settings. So they'll be using that to guide their work. I can get some information for you on the secondary schools and the cluster schools, Councillor Hans, but could I follow up on that after the meeting? Thank you.
I see Mark Armstrong maybe wants to come in.
Yes, thank you very much, Convener, and thank you, Councillor Hans, for your question and very important points that you were highlighting. This project, as well as obviously linking in with the Council's COVID response, it's part of the Community Planning Partnership's priority work around child poverty and financial hardship. So the oversight group that looks at that work, which I presently chair, will be looking at exactly the kind of questions that you're raising in terms of the data that's coming out, in terms of the uptake of this work, where there are potential identified gaps in terms of provision. And as Victoria and others were saying, we'll seek to flex and target any provision to make sure it's available and accessible to all those that would benefit from it. And agencies like the CAB are involved in that group, as well as welfare rights. So it's really just to assure elected members that those issues are in constant review and services are sought to be targeted where they will have the greatest impact and to be available to all.
Okay, thank you for that, Mr. Armstrong. I've got Councillor Devine.
Thanks, Convener. On page 75, GSG 23, I just wondered if all the different organisations who carry out Christmas events were told about this financial possibility, because I mean, we've only got one, and we know that there are several across the county. So Victoria, maybe answer that one, or Ian, either. Thanks.
Okay, you can help here.
If I come in initially, Convener, if that's
Yeah, that's fine. Thanks, Ian.
Yeah, we've done a lot, and Victoria knows the detail. We've done a lot to promote the availability of this level 4 flexible fund. I think that's actually been reflected in the number of applications that we've had from a variety of different sources. So through both our own contacts and those of third sector partners, we've promoted the availability of this quite widely. I think the fact that these are on public reports is also a factor in terms of making it known that these funds are available. But Victoria can probably add a little bit more detail to exactly how and where we've promoted the availability of the funds.
Victoria, can you add to that, please?
Yes, certainly. So with regards to this request, the approach was made through the Angus Events Network by Jackie Semple. It's a multi-agency network with council and third sector partners. The initial discussions were around submitting a request across the network for some shared resources to support starting up events again in Angus. However, applicants were also encouraged to apply individually if the timescales for a shared application didn't meet their timescales for their events. And so this one has come in because it is an event that's happening this year. So we may see further requests coming in from the group. However, the discussions were being had with Jackie Semple, who is currently unavailable. I don't know if that answers the question, sorry.
Is that helpful? Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to Councillor Miles, followed by Councillor Speed.
I didn't have a question, Convener.
Okay, Councillor Speed, is it a question?
Yes, thanks, Convener. Yep, just to say I'm supportive of the report. However, like Councillor Hans, share similar concerns around accessibility and the point that she very clearly made around any family that are experiencing financial hardship deserve that same fair opportunity to be able to access supports. So with regards to kind of GSG 16 and the education and welfare rights support, my question is around currently the ongoing kind of restrictions that families, parent carers are experiencing with regards to being able to access school grounds and schools. And I just wondered how that might kind of impact on their ability to reach out and ask for help. We know that those most financially challenged will also perhaps be experiencing problems with connectivity and accessing online. So how will that exchange and dialogue take place if parents, carers and families aren't able to access the school as they would normally? And is there any signs that will start to ease off and we'll be able to return to normal kind of community school life?
Well, that's a rather long question, so I'm not sure if we'll be able to answer it all in one go. Armstrong, do you want to come in on that one?
Yes, thanks a lot, Convener, and I'm sure if Victoria wants to kind of add anything to this. Yeah, I think the second part of the question, first, Councillor Speed, that's obviously subject to a whole range of different variances around COVID. So I wouldn't want to project when what you consider back to normal life would happen. But clearly, all our services are now operating in a way that they are seeking to operate in a COVID safe way and to ensure that they are accessible. And I would just refer back to the comment that I think it was Mr. Lorimer made around previous work that we've done in relation to providing this kind of support. And I know from the involvement of agencies like Welfare Rights in the Child Poverty Group, they are acutely aware of needing to make their provisions available to all. So I think, and I can take it up with them directly, they will not be working on the press that if you can't get into a school building and you can't access service there, then it won't be available to you. I think they will, my words, probably move heaven and earth to be accessible to the families that require this support. But I can come back to you with specifics on that. But I don't see there being a kind of risk there that families will not be able to access it, either because they can't get into a school building or because they don't have digital connectivity. The agencies that are working together to deliver this are ensuring that they make access as neutral and as barrier-free as possible.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Armstrong. If you could come back to me with more detail, that would be great. Thank you.
I see Kelly McIntosh wants to come in.
Thanks very much. Councillor Speed, just to give you an update on school guidance. Guidance was updated on the 30th of September, and that included guidance, new guidance that was directly aimed at parents, drop-off and collection for parents. So there has been a bit of movement there. The guidance that we were promised that would be issued, new updated guidance by the end of October, the government issued a statement last week saying that wasn't coming. That'll have been the sort of guidance that you perhaps read in the press about the removal of face coverings. That guidance is not coming and we don't have a timeline for it. So they've obviously stalled on a further change. But just to put some context into this is obviously a great piece of work, having welfare officers based in our schools, but we also have our parental engagement officer, and that post is split between Dawn Rennie and Sylvia Breen. So I think one of the things that I can do on top of the welfare thing is to ask our parental engagement officers to liaise directly with head teachers about any families that they're concerned about who are not accessing school at the moment, or perhaps have connectivity issues, and we will find a way to ensure that that support is delivered to them either in their homes or someplace else that's suitable.
Yep. Thanks, Kelly. Yeah, I just think it's crucial that, you know, families can be experiencing crisis, and that can change and worsen, you know, literally overnight as well. And you know, I think it's just important that families are able to, you know, head to school to drop their kids off, but also feel that, you know, there is no stigma there around, you know, actually coming and presenting at the door. And I think, you know, families need to know that they can be able to do that.
Okay, I see Mr. Lormer wants to come in, and I see Councillor Braze has got his up. Is there a question, Mr. Councillor Braze?
No comment.
Okay, right, not a problem. Mr. Lorimer, you want to come in?
Yeah, thanks, convener. It was just to add a couple of things to the discussion on this one. One is around, I suppose, a bit of reassurance around welfare rights have found other ways of making sure they can support people throughout the pandemic, even when there have been restrictions. So those methods would continue, you know, in terms of trying to help people and find other ways of reaching people. Although this proposal here is about augmenting the existing staff, it will take a little bit of work away from the existing welfare rights team. So that frees up a bit more resource in the existing team to support other people who may, you know, perhaps in schools that are not currently being supported in the first phase, to be able to access that support. I think the other thing I would say, knowing the people involved in welfare rights and in parental support, those people come to work every day with the intention of helping as many people as thoroughly as they can. So I think I'm pretty confident that they will use this resource to its maximum benefit and to help as many people as possible, despite there being, you know, restrictions and potentially other things that would make that more difficult. They'll, as they have done for the period of the pandemic, find a way to do that as best they can. So I hope that provides a bit more reassurance. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lorimer. Victoria, you wanted to come back in?
Thank you, convener. Just to add reassurance that two of the key themes that ran through this request for funding were to remove barriers and reduce stigma for people who need support. So if that offers any reassurance to elected members who have questions around access to services, I would just reiterate what Ian said about the people who have put this application in. They're dedicated to supporting the people in need, and they'll find a way to do that.
Okay, thank you for that, Victoria. Okay, I'm going to move to, it was Councillor Miles followed by Councillor Braze.
Again, convener, I have no hand up.
Okay, I must be seeing things today. Councillor Braze.
Yes, thank you. And this is strictly a comment. I particularly don't want any response from officers at the moment. I just feel that considering the scores, hundreds perhaps of community groups that are operating in Angus, a really small number of applications of us looking for approval. And if I can look at Montrose, an application for £812, good on them for getting an application in, but there must be dozens of other groups that could have just not seeing them. I think we have a bit of an issue here that we expect groups to know to come to us, and if you go to the Angus Council website and you diligently, then you'll get all these things communicated to you. But reach out with our social media into the community. really well enough. And I don't want that to sound too critical of our comms, but I think this is very much a work in progress. We have to do more to reach out to these groups.
That certainly on social media, the amount of hits that the council website get is really phenomenal. But we'll leave it at that. We'll go to Councillor Speed.
Yeah, thanks, convener. It was just a comment and just a follow up to the feedback that we received from officers. So just to say that I welcome kind of the real endeavours to remove barriers, and just to say that certainly a lot of the feedback and the mood and the feeling from members of the community that I engage with is that, you know, they are frustrated around what we can do in terms of, you know, the potential to attend large events and gatherings, and yet for many they are in crisis and they're just desperate for that face-to-face support. So yeah, I welcome the ability to look to remove barriers, as I'm sure much of the community will do too.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Speed. Councillor Devine, I've got your hand up on one side, but not on your screen. Is that an old hand? Okay.
I don't have a hand up.
Right, Councillor Hans, you've got your hand up as well. Is that an old hand?
Oh, that's a new one because I want to make a comment if I can.
Yeah, of course you can.
Right, it was just, again, from the feedback, I really welcomed from Kelly McIntosh information about the parental support officers, because I think, you know, without a shadow of a doubt, the head teachers and the staff in school are the best people to know the pupils and to know the families that are most in need. And I think because they've got that ongoing relationship, that too will help break down barriers in terms of, you know, help parents ask for that assistance and be able to get that assistance. I'm, however, still a bit concerned in terms of the criteria for assessing where the schools are, because if we're going to be looking at historical data in terms of where people have previously been seeking help from, yes, that'll give you a part of a picture, but COVID has an impact on people in places like nothing that we've known before. So we can't just take that as, you know, as read as we would normally have relied on the data, because there are going to be people now throughout Angus in areas where we wouldn't have necessarily thought there would have been issues before that will need that help. So I just do plea that we do make accessing this support as easy as possible, and I really do welcome the initiative. I think it's a fantastic one.
Yeah, thank you for those comments, Councillor Hans. Okay, Victoria, is that, do you want to come in again, or is that an old hand?
Oh, apologies, no, I take that down.
Okay, right. Okay, are there any further comments? Okay, we've got the recommendation. 1 is approve, 2 is approves, and 3 is approves. Is the report agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to item 9. It's the change programme update. The reports by Vivian Smith. You've got the recommendations. Are there any questions? Councillor Hans, followed by Councillor Duff. Or is that an old hand?
I didn't think my hand was up. Hang on a second.
Oh, right, it's coming up on my machine. Right, they just updated my machine, so right, they've probably updated it wrong. That would just be my luck.
Hand was down.
Right, it's down now. Spot on. Councillor Duff.
Yeah, thank you, convener. Yes, it's I've got 2 questions. One is page 85 table, which is effectively looking at savings and risks. There's 1 council projects in progress. My question really is about the Tayside contracts one, where it's just about 7% of the total and is shown as a high risk. Now, this is clearly we have been attempting to drive some savings with Tayside. Of background on that, when would be helpful. And my second question relates to page 86, City Deal material, and just an explanation that there's a number of at 7.2. Can someone explain what the realignment of bids, 3 bids no longer progressing, that actually is about? That would be helpful. Thank you.
Vivian, can you help here?
Yes, thank you, convener, and thanks, Councillor Duff, for your questions. I might take them in the backward order, if that's all right.
Quite all right. Yeah.
In relation to Tay Cities and the kind of amounts, but the 3 bids no longer progressing, it's actually parts of bids and things that haven't progressed because other factors have overtaken us, and we've been able to secure some resources from other places as well. So it's really an end of year or kind of mid-year now tidy up. We keep appraised of what is being used and what isn't being used. There's also been a bit of slippage in appointments into posts as well. So really what we're just doing is tidying that up and bringing that resource back into the pot, if you like, to be used again. If I come back to the first point you were making around Tayside contracts in particular, yeah, you will have seen from the report, all members will have seen from the report that there is a good lockdown on lots of the savings in the change programme for the current year. However, there are 3 projects that are kind of outstanding, and one of those is around Tayside contracts. The up-to-date information that I have is that Tayside contracts are looking at their savings options for this year and into the future, but it's unlikely that we will be able to see the delivery of that level of savings in the current year. That's not to say that we're not engaging with Tayside contracts in a very significant way. My colleague Mark Armstrong may be able to shed more detail on that, convener, if that's helpful.
Okay, we'll ask Mr. Armstrong.
Yes, thank you very much, convener, and Vivian and Councillor Duff. And as Vivian says, we're having very kind of detailed conversations, both at an officer level, and those elected members that also sit on the joint committee will be aware of reports that have been submitted to the Tayside Contracts Joint Committee in relation to their change programme. And I would kind of describe that as 3 key elements about efficiency savings and reducing the overall financial burden to the 3 councils. One is about income generation and growth, and a good example of that recently is the inclusion in the central production unit system of Perth and Kinross Council, which is bringing in additional revenues to Tayside contracts, which are then flow back out to the councils through the annual surplus. And the other area they're looking at in significant detail relates to avoiding future cost pressures. So we are, as Vivian says, working with them in detail, both in terms of the specific numbers for the current financial year, but also their proposals and projected numbers in the change programme for the subsequent 2 to 3 financial years, and they will be reflected in our future budgets. But as Vivian highlights, in the current year, we have identified and agreed that the deliverability of that £350,000 is very, very unlikely to be realised. A lesser sum, yes, but not at that target. So that's why it's marked red. But really to assure the committee that work is going on in earnest in relation to their change programme. And as I said earlier, that has similarly been reported and considered in detail at the joint committee.
Thank you, Mr. Armstrong. Are there any further questions? Any comments? Okay, you've got the recommendation. It's consider the progress update. Is the report agreed?
Agreed. Agreed.
Thank you. Item 10, page 90 to 119 is the COVID recovery, a consultation on public services, justice system and other reforms. Jackie Buchanan, and can I just say a thank you to Alison Watson. You've got the recommendations. Are there any questions? No questions, any comments? Okay, no comments. The recommendations are 1 notes, 2 considers and 3 approves. Is the report agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. Item 11, you should have received an email this morning from Jackie Buchanan. It was recommendation 3. I think it says 2 on mine, but I seem to have 2 2s for some reason, but never mind. There was a change from group to members. I take it you all got that. So the report is the 2023 review of the UK Parliament constituencies. Reports by Margot Williamson. You've got the recommendations. 3 is the most notable regarding re-establishing the working group. Are there any questions first? No, any comments? Councillor Duff.
Yeah, thanks, convener. Yeah, I'd have to say my comments are it's a complete and utter dog's breakfast. An Angus constituency and Angus in it does seem particularly ridiculous. Tacking on Scone and Blair Angus again is not very sensible. Splitting up quite a number of council wards is again not good practice. It is a complete mess. That on a political basis, certainly I think the SNP group think it's dreadful, and I don't know what we can do about it, but we will obviously have to try and make the best of the dog's mess that we've been presented with here. Completely unacceptable. A complete disrespect for the public, for the people of Angus, and for Angus's integrity as a political unit. It's almost impossible to explain to the man in the street or the woman in the street where the constituencies, the Holyrood constituencies and the council operate, because unless you're a complete political anorak like me, it's completely intelligible and crazy, and it's very difficult for MPs and MSPs who are dealing with multiple different councils. I know the difficulty in Angus North and Mearns, where you've got Angus and Aberdeenshire. This is just the complexity for our elected representatives.
Yeah, welcome your comments, Councillor Duff. Have we got any I don't know if that was a question, right or a comment, but any further questions or comments? Okay, right. Number 3, obviously the recommendation re-establish. Just trying to look. Re-establish the special subcommittee for 1 further member of the administration. That would be Bob Miles. So can I go to the SNP group for its 1 member and the non-aligned group?
I think the SNP group have 2 members, Councillor Fairweather.
It is, beg your pardon.
Okay, well, we propose that will be myself and Councillor Duff.
Okay, thank you. And the non-aligned 1 member?
Since I didn't get on communities, I'd like to go forward for that if I could. Thank you.
Okay, right. I did notice that Councillor Laurie's hand went up there.
No, I'm quite happy for Boyd, if that's what he wishes.
Okay, are we all happy with that? Fairly straightforward. Right, you've got all the recommendations, 1 note, 2 note, and 3 re-establish, and we've got the names. Is the report agreed?
Agreed.
Lovely, thank you. Number sale unit 4, Broomfield Industrial Estate Montrose. Now, right before before I go on, well, it was the reports by Alison Smith, but thank you to Marilyn Dunn. To ask members if they have any questions or comments, in terms of the exempt Appendix 1 as detailed in agenda item 14, which is, as I say, exempt. Has anybody any questions? Because if you do, I'll have to move forward to that. No questions? Okay, we'll just deal with item 12 then as it stands. So I will just quite simply ask, you've got the recommendations in front of you. Are there questions? Jackie Buchanan, you want to come in?
Through yourself, convener, I may have missed this, but did we agree to take item 14 as exempt? I know it's, I think we would maybe need to do that at this point.
Right, well, right, are the committee happy to take item 14 as exempt?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, super, thank you, committee. Okay, we've got the recommendations in front of us. 1 is agrees, 2 is notes, and that's notes A and B. Is the report agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay, and item 13 would be the exclusion of public and press. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you.
John, convener, sorry, can we ask John to stop the live stream, please?